Welcome to Push Your Glasses Up. I'm Mikey.
And I'm Reena, and hi.
Hello.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, we'll see if this translates. But we're trying to do this as a video.
Yep. So you can
It
see
may
our
be just
adorable
audio.
faces.
We'll see. But yeah, it is a blizzard outside right now, and so we figured we would get on a call and record something, because we ain't got no place else to go.
No, I am not moving my car. I got a prime parking spot.
I have a driveway.
Ooh, well, some of us don't live in the suburbs. Some of us still have to slug it out in the city.
It's also not really my driveway either, but trust me, if I could, I wouldn't be here. Yeah, so WandaVision is through 4 episodes, and we are at the point where we decided to just lump them together after a certain period of time. So we'll probably do this for the first half and then another second half, and maybe just do most of the second half in a bulk episode, I was thinking, and then do one episode as for the finale episode maybe. But we'll go from there. Other than that, why don't we just get right into it? How have you liked it so far?
I have liked it, but also I've been a night owl my entire life, so watching retro TV is something very nostalgic to me because Nick at Night was like my best friend when I couldn't sleep as a child. So
Same.
The format of like I Love Lucy and Bewitched and like the first couple episodes like totally resonates with me. There's been some complaints that it's a little slow, but also like I think this would be a good show to binge because of the way it builds, and yeah, it's a little bit slow, but I find it really interesting, and I've liked it so far.
Yeah, I've obviously same on watching of the Nick at Night growing up, which is weird because what's on Nick at Night right now was like the contemporary stuff for us.
Right.
But yeah, it's I've personally, as I said with The Mandalorian, I love the episodes that are actually less plot driven and more kind of focused on characters and just the experiences that they're going through. So I've actually really, as much as people have been saying like it's slow, there's no plot, whatever, I've actually loved just sitting in this world that has been created. Literally and figuratively. But yeah, I have thoroughly been enjoying how this has been going.
I mean, I think part of my problem is I'm just impatient. Like I know obviously like something is going on, right? And I want to know. Like I want to know what it is.
Yeah.
That's more my problem. It's like one really long episode of the X-Files.
Well, and we'll definitely get to that
right?
as well. So why don't we dive into
like...
the first 3 episodes? I think we can kind of talk about together before we get to the 4th episode, because I do think the 4th episode is gratifying because we went through the 3 episodes of just the sitcoms that we were watching. So the first episode is along the lines of like a Dick Van Dyke show, and very traditional schmaltzy, over the top kind of a sitcom from the 50s. And if you were to go back and watch an episode of one of those shows now, for us, yes, it is nostalgia because we grew up watching those reruns. But if you were to go fresh into watching an episode of the Dick Van Dyke show, if you were, say, like a 15-year-old right now, I think it would probably be a little difficult.
Well, and I also
unless you're
think
doing
that
it to research like what is going on, but.
Well, I also think the writing is better. Like that whole scene when they're trying to figure out what the heart on the calendar is was brilliant.
Yeah.
So I would say the writing's a little bit better than it was in like the 50s.
Well, I don't even think that necessarily. I think it's just that they are in a place where they can do a little bit more as far as like, because they're trying to replicate something as opposed to being in the place where, because that was, 60, 70 years ago at this point. I think they're in a place where they're making one episode of a thing that would do like 70 episodes a year. So I think they're just putting the effort of the best parts of what happened in those old shows into a single episode instead of having to spread it all out. So
I did like how when Vision goes to work, he's like, "What do we do here?" Because there was like so much of that. You go to the office place to do the business.
That's in those old sitcoms. That is really what it was like. But yeah, I really like how it going through each era. I do like how it is portraying each era's sitcoms as we go forward. I love Dick Van Dyke. Like not just his old shows, but like obviously I have talked about it before. I adore Mary Poppins. So it's and knowing he was actually helping them out as a consultant on this to kind of get the feel of the other thing and helping with the acting and getting into that place, because it very much feels like Vision is like not even just homaging that era. He is actually portraying a version of Dick Van Dyke, which...
Well, there's a certain movement quality from those shows, too. Not even just, like, what they're saying. Like, the way that she sort of glides, like, through a room. And, just the way he almost kind of pushes his shoulders forward, like, a little bit. Like, there's, like... It's, like, spot on.
Yeah. There's a lot of subtle and overt stuff going on in this that is just fascinating to, like... That first episode is the only one that I went back and watched a couple of times. And it's just, after you watch it for the first time, when you go back and watch it for the second time and you really dive deep into those mannerisms and stuff like that, you can see how strategic all of it was. And it's really cool to look at as a historical recreation of these things.
Even how they filmed it, like when you look at what the set is for like the Dick Van Dyke, the first one,
and
it's more of like very wide, right? And like lots of space for movement. And then the second one is more like kind of straight on. And then by the time we get to the third episode, we're getting more of the house. We're getting more rooms, like decor. Like it's like the internal world is expanding. But it also reflects the type of show when we get to like sort of the Brady Bunch era, which was also like a bigger
because it was also, the further along you get, the more shows would have like one use sets for external scenes or whatever, and you'd see that it's like in the first episode it's basically the office and the house and that's it, and then the next episode adds in like, was it the next episode where they added in the meeting, or was that the third episode?
Oh, it was the next episode, because that's when he eats the gum.
Right. Yes.
And then he gets drunk.
Yeah. He gummed up the works. Yeah. I really love how they went about those things, and it lets the character work shine through is the thing, and that's where I was saying I love the focus on the characters ahead of the plot in this, because we're gonna get plot stuff eventually, and it didn't take long. It took 3 half-hour episodes. That's nothing in TV time. Or slightly over a half hour, but still, like, it's maybe like 100 minutes instead of 90 minutes. But I think going through the routine of like the mystery of everything, even though we know really what's going on, like as soon as the show started. Well, no, I mean we know like the setting.
Can you tell me?
No. I'm just saying we know that it's in her head. Like it's we're not in her head. It's physically happening, but it's like it's because of Wanda. We know it's because of Wanda.
Yeah.
But
do you think it's because of Wanda processing her grief, or do you think that someone is doing it to her?
No, I mean, it could be that, but I do think that a lot of this is her living out the trauma and like trying to. I think the arc of this is the arc of her grief and the arc of her accepting what happens, because the entire thing leading through of like the first time we see like the beekeeper, which was a nice nod that I thought was gonna maybe be something deeper than it was, but it turned out to not be as deep as I thought it was gonna be. But it is like when she said no, she's still in the denial aspect, and then this is gonna jump into the fourth episode, which is it completely changes the format. It's more of a traditional Marvel movie. But that is where we get to the point where we're seeing her halt reality for herself, and push out the things that are real so she can keep the fantasy going. Because we see Vision in this latest episode as dead Vision. He is zombie Vision.
That really scared me, to be honest. That was
a harsh cut. That was a very harsh cut.
That was harsh. And then, I mean, I think that's actually the first time. Right before that is when she talks about her brother.
That was the end of the third episode. Yeah, it was.
I think that's the first time that she mentions Ultron or what happened. It kind of moved on from what happened in Sokovia and became like, more about all of the Avengers. They just... Yeah, dude, because I'm trying to think, like, even in Civil War, did she mention him at all? Like, I don't think so. Like, she lost a twin. Like, that's a big deal.
Was it in Civil War that Hawkeye gives her the pep talk? Or was that still in Ultron?
Yeah.
Was it...
No, I think... Oh, no, that was still in Ultron.
Okay.
That's when he convinces her to fight with him?
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they kind of took that and didn't let her live with it. The adventure was never focused on her. So I get it. But also, like... Now we're seeing the repercussions of not dealing with it outside of the meta level. We're seeing it on the actual inside of the story of like what not dealing with it is causing. And her, I'm sure, feeling a bit responsible on both of the big deaths that she has experienced.
Well,
and that's where I think that her acceptance isn't there yet, because she feels responsible.
Well, then also her actions in Civil War led to the Sokovia doctrine or whatever the hell it was, because remember she was trying to defuse the bomb and she ended up taking out the delegation from Wakanda, which was an accident, but that got placed squarely on her and she got locked on house arrest. This girl has had nothing but trauma.
Well, her in Civil War, her thing was that she was trying to move a bomb that she sent up, and it was like a residential building. Mm-hmm. The other bomb that killed T'Challa's father was a different bomb.
No, not that one. Remember, that's why they were having the UN meeting, because there were people from Wakanda who were visiting in that building.
Right.
But then I
don't remember the detail of it being specifically that there were people in that building visiting. The ones that she killed was in a neighborhood.
No. It was like, so he, remember, Crossbones has the bomb, and Cap's like, oh my god. And then she's like, whoom. When she hits that building, there were people from Wakanda in that building, and that's why.
Well, yeah,
Lord
because I thought
or
they
King T'Chaka came. That's why they were having that meeting, and that's why Wakanda was present.
I just don't remember.
Meeting.
I just don't remember that detail. I thought she was just grieving for the sake, or not grieving, but like felt responsible for the sake of that because she just killed people in the country she was in.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. And I also
I just don't remember that detail whatsoever. So it's been a while since I watched that. So
got placed on her, and then she was on house arrest, and it's just like, so first you're like basically like tortured by Hydra and turned into a weapon, and then you lose your only, after you've lost your whole entire family, mind you, and then now you've lost your only family remaining, who happens to be your twin brother, and then like you find like some sort of purpose, but then one thing goes wrong, and it's like all your fault, and now there's all these like regulations coming down on everyone that's splitting your like new like chosen family up, and you can't leave the house.
Yeah.
And then like the one guy that like you, that understands you and like loves you, who happens to be like not an actual human, ends up dying, like dead, not like poof dead.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
There's a lot, and that's why I mean, like, this is clearly going to be the story of her acceptance of the things that she's lost. It's just that we have to get through the part where she is walling herself off. And she's
literally and figuratively.
Well, and that's she says it to Monica as she forces Monica out in the full version of the scene that we see in the 4th episode, which is, she said, you were an outsider here and you're not welcome, and then she forced her out, and that is where we're going to start to pick up some of the pieces and put them together, but that's why I think that the 4th episode works so well. We sat in it. We've been stewing in that feeling of putting everything off. And then once we go to the wider world, we can actually get a view of everything from a wider perspective. So I think, as much as a lot of people were saying that they were disappointed that there wasn't as much plot at the top of it, it just wouldn't have worked as well if there was, in my opinion.
Question: do we think that Speed and Wiccan are gonna actually be characters?
I don't know. It's a tough call,
because they were born.
They were
very fast, quickest.
But she's also
ever.
controlling the reality inside of a bubble.
Didn't
so
it's
hard to
anyway?
tell. What?
In the comics, like, didn't she like manifest them basically?
I do not remember. So yeah, it is one of those things where I think that could go either way. Because
then we can like Wiccan with Hulkling, and it can be like a thing, and
yeah, but also I'm
looking at like phase 8.
It depends on how they handle the reality of what's going on, because I don't know how actual time is going to work with, if they are born when the bubble is burst, are they going to be the age they are when they come out of the bubble, when the episode that they are on is, like, the decade that, like, it gets a little confusing with that. So I can't really make a call on that, but it is a way to introduce these characters if they wanted to, if they went that route. But also they could just say, no, they were just fictitious in that reality that she built. But that would be real cruel to do.
So hard.
On top of everything else that this character's been going through, that would be extremely cruel. So I hope that is a way to get them to come into reality.
I did like how we mentioned Monica, or what was her name? Geraldine.
Geraldine. She likes her pants.
But I liked how our first like introduction to her outside of, you know, Wanda's world was that whenever she poofed, she came back, and
literally
seeing the calamity.
Yeah.
Of everyone just coming back.
And that's where I say that, like, episode 4 was basically a mini Marvel movie. The way it's shot, the way the tone is just extremely very hard right at the beginning versus what we've been experiencing. It lines up with like Infinity War and Endgame a lot in that way versus what we've been watching. And it's interesting. This is one of the cinematography that like everyone's talking about, like, yeah, the aspect ratios, all that stuff. The thing that I noticed the most with the difference is the flat surface versus the depth of field of the different things. Like when you watch the first episode, everything in that episode is all one level. Like everything in the background is just as focused as the people in the foreground, because that's how that stuff was shot. And then you see it in the moment of reality of that when Vision's boss is choking. You do see the slight difference. The aspect ratio doesn't change. It changed in the commercial or the trailer for it, but it didn't change in the episode. But you do see the lighting get heavier contrast and a little bit dimmer. You see the depth of field changes, so everything in the background is out of focus and the characters are in focus because it just becomes that moment. And then as soon as it's over, it pops back to the way it was. And then you transfer into episode 4 and it looks like stunning the way it's shot. It straight up feels like it honestly felt a little closer to like the Star Trek movies from a couple years ago, even more so than the recent Marvel movies. Like it just had a little bit more flair to it. Not talking about lens flare necessarily. I'm just saying it has a little bit more flair to it than the drabness that was kind of there in those Marvel movies, which was there for a reason. Everything was sad, but yeah, it just had a little bit more to it than that. But the thing that people have been talking about with that as well is how this should set up an X-Files like TV show with Darcy and Jimmy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
wait, and
100%.
So Sword replaced Shield, correct? Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Yeah. I didn't like those games. I wasted money on them. But
I love
it
Pokemon
kind
Sword.
of did. So Sword, I don't want to say it replaced Shield. Traditionally, Sword is part of Shield. In the
Was Sword
movies,
not infiltrated
it felt
by
a little.
Hydra?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I think this was its own creation that didn't really have to do with Shield necessarily. It doesn't specifically say these things one way or the other in the movies, but just the way that it comes, like the way they talk about it through like the formation of it, we never really get. We just get like at the post-credit scene from Spider-Man Far From Home was it Far From Home? Yeah. Where it's Ben Mendelsohn is in the car talking on the phone, and then it cuts to Nick Fury and he's in space. Like that's how we know Sword exists. And so I don't know if they'll touch on it and differentiate. It feels like its own separate thing, and that Nick Fury just happens to be up there. Because it also set up the whole confusing thing of like, okay, so which Nick was it? Real Nick Fury that was in all the other movies before this, or was it not? So we'll have to, I think, wait and see how that one goes. But it's like the thing with the beekeeper suit and stuff is like that's really an AIM thing that they're using for Sword, which is why I was saying earlier that I wish it had gone a little deeper with that rather than just like a haha, look at this thing. It was a misdirection, which is fine, but.
Do you think that she'll bring her brother back? I'm kind of surprised that we haven't, if she's creating her own world with Vision, and she's now acknowledged that she has lost him.
Yeah. I don't know.
It would be nice to see, what's his name again?
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
I did like him as Quicksilver, and we only got him for a little bit.
Yeah, I think he was a more interesting character than the X-Men version, but I think the X-Men version had better moments. And the way that they dealt with the use of speed was done in a cooler way in the X-Men movies. Even though most of his appearances were in not tremendous movies. But yeah, we'll have to see. That's one of those things where I'm like, all right, are we just going to bring every old character back in every superhero movie? Because Michael Keaton's coming back as Batman. We have all of the Spider-Men.
Yes.
So it's going to get a little bit hackney if it keeps being that. I'd rather the beekeeper guy was named Agent Franklin, and I was just like, oh man, what if they were just like, you know what, it's actually Franklin Richards, and they were saying his first name, which would be like a stupid thing that my mind made up, but that's where
okay.
I'm going.
We're watching a whole show, Mikey, about a world someone's mind made up.
But the thing with it is, I because I know Fantastic Four is now officially coming, I'm like, yes, that's where my brain is. Yeah, I find what they're doing extremely fascinating with the show, because like there's The Mandalorian, which is a real straightforward show. That is a very showy show. And then we have
the showiest.
Yeah. And then we have Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming up, which is going to be a very showy show. That's going to be probably pretty straightforward. I'm sure there will be some story twists or whatever, but nothing like this. And then there's Loki after that, which is going to be another like weird show. So I'm liking the fact that they're kind of alternating back and forth between, here's a regular straightforward show, here is a weird one, here's a regular straightforward show, here is What If, here's like that. To me is super cool, because we spent the weirdest stuff we got in the first two phases was Guardians of the Galaxy, which that's weird.
And I'd say Doctor Strange a little bit.
Yeah, towards the end of the second phase there, yeah. So it's there. It is overweighted balance to the very normal shit. So it's super cool that we're getting some of the weirdo stuff into it, and just like Star Wars, like a lot of my favorite Star Wars is the weirdo shit. So it makes me happy to see both of these things doing that.
Well, we're gonna get more of that in the like MCU proper too, with like the next Doctor Strange movie and the multiverse. Like that's gonna be crazy. And
so when does he pop up in this?
Right, and then all the Spider-Mans, so many.
Just a bunch of Spider-Mans just running.
All the Spider-Mans.
That is a Clone High reference.
I did not get your reference this time.
Just a bunch of men just running.
I guess we even got like a touch of it into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
and I thought was one of,
and
even
that's
though
where
it's not
I get
a Marvel movie, but
that's where I get a little nervous about the use of, okay, we're just going to put every version of these characters into movies again, because that's not the takeaway from that. That's a fine plot in a great movie because it was care put into that movie. That can't just suddenly be it's the DCEU thing of like, oh man, The Dark Knight was dark and gritty, so we should make a dark and gritty Flash movie, was the news that came out of that. And it was like, no.
Welcome to corporate America, Mikey.
I know.
Welcome. This happens to me on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah.
Working at a very corporate office. You come up with a good idea and it's successful and it hits its goals. And then everyone's like, oh my God, we got to do like 800 of those.
We have to replicate
and then
it.
we're like, the reason this worked is because it was like an X amount of
effort
we did
was
it
put
this
in.
many times.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
like, no, we need more. And you're like, you with the same audience, we can't hit them with more.
Yeah. So I am nervous about that. But as of right now, I'm happy where things are. Because it's also like, obviously the follow-up to this is going to be Doctor Strange. So it's leading directly into it, and it is, the weirdness will just continue. So I am curious, like, when or if he shows up in this episode, or in this show, like what that episode will be like.
So here's my question. Do we think we're going to have a reverse House of M, and that's going to be the introduction to the X-Men?
No.
Instead of being like, no more mutants. Be like, all the mutants.
I think they...
all the Spider-Mans. That's how it happens.
Just running. But that's one of those things where I'm like, they could go that way, but it feels like it could be lazy the way that it's done. To just say like, poof, they're here. Whereas I would honestly kind of hope that they would just set it up as like it's starting to pop up now. Because like the first X-Men movie, like mutants had been around. It's just that certain events didn't take place, like big attacks or anything like that hadn't taken place. So I'm hoping that they go more the route of just introducing that they exist, but they've been hiding themselves because society doesn't want to have them around. Like society would be scared of them. So it makes more sense. It wouldn't be that far off. Yeah, I mean
with first like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they talked about like Terrigenesis. Like, okay, so you got powers from alien dust, basically. And we know you get powers from science, right? Captain America. Or maybe you're just really smart, like Tony Stark. So we've kind of...
And then Heart, and then Captain Planet.
Yes, exactly. The power is yours. Or you can just, like, get infused with Kree blood. So we have we have alien dust, we have alien blood.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of different power aspects. So genetic mutation
evolution hasn't been there yet.
I think breathing in alien dust is like a harder sell,
right?
Than genetic mutation.
Yeah. Because like that's how we are where we are now is evolution. So. Oh,
and don't forget like eternal beings and gods and shit. There's that too.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. So I hope they go that route instead. I'm also not really concerned about what they do with X-Men for a while because
they're doing Fantastic Four first.
Yeah, which I've been waiting for way more impatiently. So, yeah,
I was gonna say something else and now I forgot. Oh, I lost it. What were we talking? Okay, just keep talking.
We were talking about WandaVision the whole episode.
It was a smart point, and now I don't remember what it was.
Well, we got on that tangent after talking about Doctor Strange, after talking about the hope of the X-Files spin-off thing.
Yes.
So yeah, that would be another very cool little
It was nice to see Kat Dennings come back. It's been a minute.
Yeah, I got spoiled on that because people were just screen capping it and putting it on Twitter. And I'm usually not that upset about spoiler things, but that's pretty egregious at 9 a.m. to wake up and see people posting it. That was pretty bad. But you know, what can you do? You just got to.
I was
try to
like,
avoid
did I
it.
miss something? Did I like turn it off too soon? I was confused, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was for the recent episode. I thought like I had missed something.
Yeah, well then
But I didn't.
the actual WandaVision Twitter account also decided to start posting pictures of cameos, and I was like, oh, that's nice.
Okay.
That's a little surprising.
So, that's cool. All right.
Yeah.
Good job,
But
everybody.
yeah, I have thoroughly enjoyed every episode going through so far, and I think episode 4 is where it'll finally open up and allow people who have been waiting for plot to start getting that aspect of the story, which is good. It'll be a little more balanced for people. I have already been loving what they've been doing, regardless of if there was story or plot, because we were focused. We were like, It's weird and it's chaotic, but we were focused on an idea, and I did like that a lot.
Yeah, but if they started out, they started like out with episode 4, right? It's gonna read like Agents of Shield.
Well, and yeah,
it's
and
not
not
gonna
even
have
if
the same impact.
and not even if they were doing it as episode 4 first. If they were doing it all in real time, it just would have felt like less. It wouldn't feel as special. It would have just like all of this would have been one episode. The first 3 episodes all would have fit into 45 minutes. And that's not as interesting as what we got for me anyway. But yeah. You got anything else?
I'm excited. I don't remember my original point that I was going to say.
It's fine.
I don't remember. I know, but I think it's probably not as smart as I think it is. I only think it's that way because I lost it.
Was it about how if everything was living by Pleasantville rules, as soon as Wanda saw a helicopter, that means somebody masturbated?
They did push their beds together. They did make one bed. Taboo.
That would be less masturbation. But yeah, I do appreciate that if you have a fondness for Pleasantville, there's an undertone to this show that is a little more passionate. But yeah, it's I don't really have much to add after that, other than I'm really excited to see where this continues to go.
Yep,
and we are probably inevitably going to get a single camera confessional to the camera style in the vein of The Office episode in the next. The next one's 80s and the 90s. So like 3 episodes from now, I would assume.
So there's something that looks like Full House or Roseanne, I think.
Well, I know the next episode, I saw stills from it, and they're like wearing leggings and like ankle warmers and stuff. So maybe the episode after that one is probably like a Roseanne-y, I would assume, kind of one, unless they go like more Married with Children with it, which honestly I think might be a better choice. But even though technically Roseanne was a better show than Married with Children, but also we don't talk about Roseanne anymore.
No.
We talk about everything about that show that isn't her, which
I thought they were gonna do
to.
Full House though, because as like an homage to
I would
sisters.
assume it would be an amalgam of a couple things, because like the 70s episode, for people who watched like the Brady Bunch, they saw the Brady Bunch, but then there was an interview with the showrunner that was like, actually it's this show, and it's a show I've never heard of. So I think,
what show? Do you remember what
I don't
it was?
remember what it was called, but it was some probably something along the lines of like Small Wonder, I would assume. But
Oh my god, Small Wonder.
yeah.
Can
But
they do
it's
a Punky Brewster episode? Can that be the 80s one? Is she
that'd
gonna
be
leave
cool.
the kids at like a grocery store? Disappear.
Punky Wanda. Yeah, it's I don't know exactly where they'll go with it, but I would assume it's going to be something smooth enough where people will be like, well, I watched this show, so it feels like this show. So I think people will get different things out of it. Like the show that's going to be the confessional show, everyone will be like, well, this is The Office. This is because that's kind of what started that all. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, once they get to like the 2010s, it'll be like, all right, now they're homaging the Goldbergs, which just harkens back to the 80s anyway. So they'll go back to the 80s within their own reality.
It suddenly crosses over with Stranger Things, and then all my streaming services are merging into one.
The super network. Yeah, so I'm pumped. I'm pumped where it's going. I'm over satisfied with what they've done so far. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be cool to see where it goes.
Yep. I'm excited.
Cool.
I hope when convention season comes back, we get a lot of
In 4
WandaVision
years.
cosplays. Right? I liked her magician outfit. I liked her 70s outfit.
Oh, I think the next episode might. Oh, it's
Be the
either
Halloween
that
one?
or the. Yeah, it's either next episode or no, it's probably the one after that. Because there was a different. It definitely looked like a single camera at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So that might even be a couple in the future. I think there's 9 episodes total. I don't know. I might be wrong on that. So I think it's gonna go a little longer and give a little more time to cover up until basically current day for the episodes doing the decade thing. But yeah, that's all I got.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
All right.
Well,
Cool.
if this actually worked the way we were hoping it to, we might try this again. If it didn't, you are just hearing our voices, which is fine.
Yep.
It's the way we
And I
always
did
did it.
my makeup for nothing.
I didn't. I didn't. You can tell I'm much paler than you on the video.
This is
but yeah.
bronzer. This is...
And this is translucent. So we'll see how this goes. If it worked, we'll try it again. If it didn't, we'll maybe try it again, but we'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, other than that, we will talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.